Frenchie's Art Gallery, located on historic Oak Street beside the Maple Leaf Bar. With over 3,000 square feet of space, it features a large gallery front room and Frenchie's personal art studio. Frenchie's Art Gallery is also connected to the Maple Leaf Courtyard, which is ideal for the New Orleans night scene. Frenchie's Art Gallery, 8314 Oak Street. Yeah, you're right.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my, oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lane's the home of rock and roll.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I want to wish everybody out there a very happy Easter. It's Easter week, and that is the season for bright colors. And because of that, and a good friend who passed away this weekend, I want to dedicate this show to her. I'm wearing bright colors. She loved bright colors. Her name is Millie. Hey, rest in peace, sweet angel. We love you, and it's going to be a fantastic show. I cannot wait for this one. Hey, it was Masters weekend this past weekend. To me, I've been to Super Bowls, World Series, Final Fours, Major League championships, NBA championships, and all of it. But for me, the Masters is the greatest weekend of the year. It is certainly the prettiest, and this weekend was no different. It started off very weird, though. Dustin Johnson fell down the steps. He was the guy who had won 3 straight tournaments, #1 player in the world. He fell down the steps the day before it started, slipped and fall, and he hurt his back, so he didn't even get to participate. But it's a guy that's been so close so many times. His name? Well, you know it well now. Sergio Garcia, the Spaniard, became the 3rd Spaniard ever to win. Olazabal and, of course, Seve Ballesteros before that. But it wasn't easy. Man, it looked like for a while that he was going to win this thing. And then on Sunday, of course, he had the 2 bogeys on 10 and 11. I mean, we thought he's choked before, and we thought it was going to happen again. But, man, he had that epic eagle that we'll remember forever now on 15, where he went from 1 down to 1 up. And then it was a battle between Justin Rose and Sergio. They went back and forth. They both missed a couple putts. They both had some good shots down the end. They're very close friends, both Ryder Cup teammates for a long time, and it's just a special day. Congratulations to Sergio, who, by the way, was the first time that a player has played 18, 19 years and never won a major and finally got one. So congratulations to Sergio Garcia. The whole world was rooting for him in that last day. Even though Justin Rose is a class act, I think everybody wanted this to be Sergio's. Hey, by the way, let's switch gears to the NBA. What is going on with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, the NBA champions last year? They have been in a funk, and Sunday was the biggest funk of all. They blew a 26-point fourth-quarter lead. That's right, they were up 26 points in the fourth quarter. They got outscored 44-18 to take it to overtime to the Atlanta Hawks, and they ended up losing that game in overtime. The Hawks, by the way, didn't even lead till 52 minutes in. Hey, by the way, they lost a double-digit lead last night as well. The Pelicans, they've lost 4 in a row. They have 2 games left in the season. We'll see what happens after that as far as the ownership. Saints are kicking tires on 3 players. Superstars. Adrian Peterson was here recently. Richard Sherman they're looking at. And who knows what's going to happen with Malcolm Butler. And also, the Baby Cakes. That's right, the Baby Cakes opened their new era of baseball here in New Orleans with the new name. I was there. The Shrine on Airline was fantastic, but they only went 1-4. As far as college baseball goes, LSU, Tulane, UNO, and Louisiana Tech all won 2 of 3 this weekend. And UL, they played the national champion Coastal Carolina team. They went 1-1-1. And don't forget, UL and LSU tonight, the Wally Pontiff Classic for the 3rd straight year. Those 2 are competing. I have a special show for you. Charles Alexander, in my opinion, the greatest player in LSU football history, will be here tonight. Running back in the late 70s, Ronnie Rantz, former pitcher for LSU, now the Hall of Fame president. He's here. Clint Wenzel, Tulane, For all you Green Wave fans, Charlie Wooten and Paul Sanchez, two musicians. It's going to be jam-packed. Stay tuned.
Love is a burning thing, and it leaves a powerful sting. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, down, down.
Welcome to the start of the show. I've got a big show for you. Charles Alexander, LSU great, coming up later in the show. We have Charlie Wooten, and you just heard Paul Sanchez right there. And don't forget, I'm also going to have Clint Wenzel for you Tulane fans. He was a star back in the early 80s. It's going to be a fun show, but we're kicking it off with the man who's not only the CEO and president of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, he's a broadcaster, and he also happened to play a little sports too. That's right, he was an LSU pitcher, all-SEC tourney team back in the day. In the early 90s, he played on a national championship team, the LSU's first one in 1991, and their second one in 1993. And oh, by the way, the year in between, they only won 50 games. He was on a legendary team, and it was a legendary decade that they kicked off, that dynasty that had 5 national championships in a 10-year period. Ronnie Rantz was on to the first 2 of them. Welcome to the show.
This is the first time in my life I've ever been a leadoff.
You're leading off, baby.
I mean, I've never been a leadoff batter in my life.
You are kind of tall, although I think the Cubs are starting to lead off that big dude, Schwarber. What's his name? Schwarber.
Yeah.
I eat
Is
a lot
he
of
hitting
chicken.
leadoff?
They said he's going to lead him off a lot because
crazy.
And he's a big guy like yourself.
Dude, yeah.
But I've been eating a lot of chicken shawarma lately, so I have to say shawarma.
Nothing wrong with that.
Let's start off right here, because something fascinating to me that we talked about off air is that you actually, when you were playing, Skip Bertman, legendary coach, obviously one of the greatest coaches in college baseball history, he would let you go into the press box and call some games, or at least some of the innings during games that you were on the team?
Well, my dream was always to be in TV and radio all my life. I mean, even going back to high school, that's what I wanted to do. I just thought I was going to pitch 15 years in the big leagues like Jim Palmer and do underwear commercials and then be on the game of the week. But needless to say, that didn't work out.
Are you not doing underwear commercials?
Believe it or not, I'm not, and that's probably to the benefit of everyone out there. But so Coach Bertman knew that I had the talent and the drive to want to be in TV and radio. And so back in the day, all the games weren't on the full LSU network.
Sure.
KLSU, the campus radio station would do a lot of the midweek games and some of the games that weren't as popular. And so therefore, if I threw like on a Tuesday night or something and the Wednesday game was on, if I wasn't available to pitch, he would let me go do a couple of innings in the booth. And so I would go up in my uniform and announce a couple of the innings, and that's how really my career got started.
I don't even know if you noticed. I went to LSU as well before you, maybe say 8 years before you started. I don't know. But I left and went to D.C. and I came back for law school during your time.
Right.
You were there. When did you start and leave? And what is your most memorable time at LSU?
Well, I mean, I was there during the glory days. 91, 92, 93. I played 3 years, was part of 2 national championship teams, and had my best personal year in 1992. In 93, I was hurt. I had surgery right at the start of the year.
Yeah, I saw that ERA was a little high that year.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah, no, it was.
I figured you were hurt because I saw 92. I was like, what happened
I
here?
had surgery in December, and we tried to rush the rehab, and that wasn't a smart move. But the most memorable was obviously winning the national championship in 1991. We won the first ever national championship. And then to boot, we got to go to Omaha. We got to go to the White House. We got to go to meet Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I mean, I had Will Clark on last week, and I mentioned that I said, and maybe I'm a homer. Of course I'm a homer. But I said Will Clark's swing, and I had to play against him in high school, so I can vouch for this, was as pretty as any I've ever seen. And I mentioned Ted Williams being maybe the other.
Well, my background with Will Clark is I went to Lake Castle in New Orleans East, and Barry Butera was the legendary hitting coach at Jesuit and was Will Clark's personal hitting coach all through high school. And so Barry Butera was my coach from 3rd grade to 7th grade, and Will Clark would come work out with Barry. I would take ground balls behind Will Clark. He was much older than me, but I remember Will all my life.
Barry
and he was
Butera, I grew up watching,
I mean,
dude.
super talented.
I was a Tulane bad boy. Hey, talk about this era because you played with some greats. Todd Walker, I noticed in that picture in the dog pile, or I think some congratulations.
Greatest hitter in the history of LSU baseball, in my opinion.
Isn't he? I mean, honestly, I know we've had some greats, and I've had a few of them on the show, like Mason Katz and some other really good hitters, but Todd Walker was just a stud.
Game was on the line. You could pick one guy, and Skip Bertman has said this, that if you could pick one guy, it'd be Todd Walker, and then probably Eddie Furness after him. But I was fortunate in '91. We had Lyle Mouton, who could hit the ball as far as anybody. Gary Email had 25 homers that year. But then you had a lot of guys like Rich Cordani, who were all SEC, that were just tough outs, that would hit 350 every year. And Russ Johnson, I played with him, and who was a fantastic player. Armando Rios.
Russ Johnson was with the Braves. I mean, when I was doing games, I called the games. He was great. But the pitching staffs, I looked at the 91 staff, and I'm like, Soraka,
all three
Paul
in the
Burr,
big leagues.
Chad Ogier.
And then Rick Green was a first-round pick,
the closer,
the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean,
and then in '93 you had Scott Schultz, who's the all-time winning pitcher in the history of the program. Mike Soraka, that year we rode him to 10 complete games. I think he had 9 in a row to finish the year on the mound. And then Brett Laxton, who pitched in the big leagues and set a record with 16 strikeouts in the national championship game. So just super uber talented, and of course Skip Bertman calling the shots. That's why we won.
Well, he's next because obviously Skip came around when I was in college, and then they started building.
Look at the skinny Skip.
Skinny Skipper. They started building this thing up. Obviously, the great Ben McDonald was in my era when I was a student, just going to games and watching and being a fan. But you played under the great Skip Bertman. 5 national titles, and now you are a broadcaster. You're calling the game tonight, the Wally Pond Classic on CST. It's by Jumbo Productions, which is your company, and that's going to be on CST, but they're playing UL, the big game of the year all the time. But what's it like between the two differences? You've been around Maneri, the head coach now of LSU. He's got a national championship, and then Skip Bertman. Do you see any?
Oh, yeah. There's big differences. Then the similarities that they both run a great program. Paul Maneri's a little more CEO than Skip Bertman.
Good way to put it.
And Skip Bertman's a lot more, brutally honest, in your face. I remember one time he came up to me and
it was in y'all's face in that picture.
Yeah, I mean, it was his first ever, my first ever start in college, and Gary Email, who was a senior catcher, and I kept getting the signs mixed up. My contacts were having problems and all that. Coach Bertman hated when you missed signals. That drove him crazy. And he comes out to the mound.
He probably loved excuses too, like the contacts.
He came out to the mound and he goes, "What the hell is going on out here? You guys are butchering the game of baseball." and I go, "Coach, I can't see." And the email's going, "The freshman's messing up the signals." And he goes, "Hey, Rantz, if you don't pull your head out of your rear and get the signal straight, you're never going to pitch here again." And he walked off the mound.
You got the accent down, man. I mean, absolutely perfect. Oh, speaking of, I have to ask this because I saw Skip. Ronnie, you do a lot of things, man. Right. I mean, you're a broadcaster, obviously the Hall of Fame, but one of the Hall of Fame, look at that with Duck Dynasty.
There you go.
The Hall of Fame event that I went to, I thought was spectacular.
Yeah, Glory Road. Yeah.
Glory Road. We have a picture of the promos that you did, but talk about this because you had Skip Bertman, Bob Pettit, John Brady, J.T. Curtis, and that's just the one I went to, and several others.
And Michael Lewis, the beer man, was in the house.
The beer man was there. Bobby Hebert.
T-Bob.
But you have every one of these stops, those 6 cities you saw, you had great players like Charles Alexander, Kevin Falk.
Charles Alexander came to Lake Charles. Kevin Falk was in. The two that stood out the most for me was Bob Pettit. I had never met Bob Pettit. And the guy's a class act, and he told some great stories. He never made more than $60,000 a year in his career, and the guy's one of the top 50 NBA players.
Well, let me put it this way. Until there was guys named Duncan, Barkley, and Malone, he was considered the greatest power forward in NBA history.
Right.
That's how good he was.
But the best for me was in Lafayette. We had Ron Guidry. Louisiana Lightning.
That's the one.
And he had a couple of cocktails. He was loose. He was feeling good. And he told some great stories, including the fact something I didn't know, and I thought I knew everything about Ron Guidry. He's the only pitcher to be named captain in the history of the Yankees.
I actually did know that because I did that in a trivia thing once, and I missed it because I thought it was the guy, Whitey Ford.
Right.
But here's the other thing. Wasn't he like 27-3?
Yeah.
Like 77 or 78?
78 or whatever.
Because they were back-to-back. It sounds like you know history like me. I love to talk about history and baseball in particular. Real quick, the other thing I want to get to is the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
All right. what's going on with this right now? Talk about how people can get up to Natchitoches, because I've heard this is an incredible event that I've been wanting to get
June 2013, they opened up the brand new museum up in Natchitoches on Front Street across from the Cane River. It's a $23 million building. It's amazing. Shaquille was in that first class in 2013. But every year, the last weekend in June is the induction ceremony weekend. And this year, some folks from down here, Ed Reed going into the Hall of Fame, David Toms, the great golfer, Dee Dee Bro, 40 years gymnastics coach at LSU, Juan Pierre played 14 years in the big leagues from Alexander Senior High, Marlins and many others. He's going in, and a lot of other guys
Perhaps
as well.
You could play a role in getting them on the Primetime Sports Show. I don't know.
Calvin Burrell, the jockey. So anyway, it's June 23rd and 24th. For more info, go to lasportshall.com, lasportshall.com. We've got golf tournaments that weekend. We've got a banquet. We've got fireworks on the river. It's a fantastic event.
I'll continue to promote it as we get closer to it, for sure. Hey, before I can't let you go without talking current guys, this team, they've had some losses. They can't seem to beat somebody from New Orleans. Tulane and UNO have beaten them 3 times. What's the prognosis of this squad right here?
Well, this LSU baseball team came in preseason top 5 in the country. And the reason they did that was because they had Alex Lang and Jared Poche back, their number 1 and number 2 starters, as well as Hunter Newman, their closer. And that is why they were preseason number 1, along with 7 of 9 starters returning from a year ago on offense. No team in the history of LSU baseball has ever had that much experience back. The problem right now, quite frankly, and the concern, even though they won 2 out of 3 this past weekend from Arkansas, is the fact that Alex Lang, 3 of his last 6 starts have been bad, his worst of his career, and Jared Poche is coming off his worst start in the history of his career, 3 1/3 innings, 9 hits. They're not going to do anything if those guys aren't good 3, 4 out of every 5 times they go out.
And I love the fact that they have that 1 through 4, man, with Duplantis and Robertson and those guys.
How about Dykeman, 10 home runs already? And I would say 5 of the 10 he's hit have been gorilla ball era type homers.
Yeah, the ones like in the late 70s, like Brad Hopper.
Late 90s when they were swinging those -5 bats.
Late 90s, exactly. I can tell next time we're going to have to add 10 more minutes to this segment, because this man talks like I do. Hey, I gotta go now.
Food, love it.
That's a great place. You're going to love it. I need a big old Ronnie Rantz on here. Hook me up.
Yeah.
Find a good spot, maybe on the other side. But, hey, we got a huge show. That's just kicking it off. That was entertaining, by the way. Clint Wenzel, one of my heroes growing up, played for Tulane in the early 80s. Don't forget Charles Alexander, and I got a couple great musicians as well right here on Primetime Sports. Welcome back, Crescent City, and of course Baton Rouge, Lafayette, the rest of Louisiana, the Gulf Coast, and Arkansas, and wherever you may be watching. Hey, I want to thank Ronnie Rantz. If you haven't been to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, you got to get over there. I mean, it's phenomenal. Every year, the people they induct, all worthy candidates and all just great, great guys and great athletes and coaches, etc. Hey, let's move forward. We're going from LSU, and don't forget later in the show, we're going to have 2-time Heisman finalist Charles Alexander. He left LSU as the all-time leading rusher there, also single-season rusher. A couple of those have been broken, but he was one of the greats, so stay tuned for that. But we're switching gears to Tulane right here in New Orleans. And my next guest, when I grew up, hey, listen, man, when you're like 5th, 6th, 7th grade, you always look up to those guys 3, 4 years older than you that play all sports. Well, here's one of them right here. He played at Tulane from 1980 to 83. Hey, state champion basketball player in high school, played infield and baseball, all-around athlete. He was a defensive tackle and linebacker in college, but the guy could also kick, punt. Heck, he could probably return punts if he needed to. He was that good and athletic. His name is Clint Wenzel. Welcome to the show. Look at this hand, boy. That's a big hand. And you got 2 younger brothers that actually are closer to my age, and I'm still good friends with them. But how have you been, man?
Doing fine. I've lived on the North Shore for the past 20 years, and raised my children there, and they're empty. I'm an empty nester now, so
that's got to be nice.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, they're both healthy and
good for you,
and self-sufficient. So it's been a blessing. Certainly has.
Clint, on Primetime Sports, we are about hardcore journalism. We get down to the root of it. So here's what I'm gonna do first. Here's the Angry Wave helmet. Yay or nay? Because when I grew up, and I'm a few years younger than you, not many. And I went to Wave games. Wearing the T-shirts with the Angry Wave was a big thing to do. It went away for a few decades, and now it's prominently back. What are your thoughts about the Wave?
I gotta think that the the new administration has hit on a pretty good
a little marketing
logo.
gimmick, right?
Without a doubt. I think it works, and it's it's one of those things that people will remember.
Did you play with any of the Angry Wave stuff? What were the logos you remember?
Not on our helmets. No, my freshman year in 1980, we had I guess it was the green T with the sky blue U on it.
Okay, you had that one. Okay, the T and U. I remember that. Yeah.
And then the next 2 years, we went to what we used to refer to as the Seahawk look that kind of transformed into that T with the wave coming over it. But anyway, it was only on the helmets for a couple of seasons, and then as a senior, we transitioned back to the same TU. So those were the 4 helmet labels that we had.
I'm glad I got to the bottom of this hard-hitting journalism. Now we're going to move on talking about real football. I got to ask you, man, there was one era in Tulane history that they kind of had LSU's number, and I know from a 3 to 4 year stretch, they beat LSU 3 out of 4 years. You were on 2 of those teams. I know from 79, I think 82, they won 3 of those, but you played from 80 to 83. What was it like going up to Baton Rouge and taking them out in their home stadium?
Well, obviously that was a special night, and there were certain things that that led up to that kind of make that victory even more sweet. But anyway, it was that was a special night for all of us at Tulane, and so
I'm looking at this lower third. It said you were on Tulane's all-dome team, which is a big honor. I mean, think about this. I know they went to the Dome in the mid-'70s after the Dome was built and they were playing on state. But that's huge, I think. I mean, what's that, 30, 40 years of football, and you were named that, and that's an honor. I mean,
I was certainly, tickled that they included me on that team because, certainly there's probably not as many All-Americans and All-Stars as there have been in Baton Rouge. However, there's been quite a long list of excellent football players and talent that's come through. So
when you were growing up, I mean, there's 2 guys that sticked out to me as a kid, and I loved Tulane football as a young kid. You obviously, like me, went to games at Tulane Stadium,
yes, sir.
80,000-seat stadium. But Mark Oliveri and in particular Steve Foley, who are the guys that you remember growing up? And man, I love that guy.
Certainly, those were guys that they were household names, and I remember my first game that my parents dragged us to as young kids was Bobby Duhon was still playing.
Bobby Duhon, all right.
So this would have been sometime.
Everybody under 50 is like, who? Exactly. He was a superstar.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. He's still very active, and I believe he lives in Atlanta, and he now he comes in for quite a number of events.
All right, I got to talk about the coaches you had. I think Larry Smith had just left. He had some success. And then you got Vince Gibson, who was a colorful personality. And I know he was there for 3 years, and then Wally English. But let's talk with Vince.
Yes.
What was it like playing under – yeah, I combined Vince and Gibson, didn't I? Gintz. What was it like playing for Coach Gibson?
That was very interesting. He was a live wire, and he was very fiery, and he would carry an amplified megaphone that that all of us that played under him certainly dream about that in our sleep, whether it's good, bad, nor indifferent.
Sure,
I'll leave it at that. You know.
Well, what was it like the transition to Wally English? What was his personality?
Well, that whole season was very interesting. If you recall, that was the year that Bubby Brister was our starting quarterback.
That's right.
And he benched Bubby in the early stages of the season to replace Bubby with his son, and then Bubby left, and it was an interesting, the season. It was a very interesting season, but. Anyway,
Bubby was very interesting. Started at Alabama, then he went to Tulane, ended up at Northeastern, and then had a great career up there,
right.
And actually has a Super Bowl ring.
Absolutely.
With the Denver Broncos. And he went to Neville High School, so yep. I knew a little bit about it before that. Yep. I got to talk about this new era. You're obviously an alum. I mean, you're proud of your school, and you want them to do well. there's only been one era really that you can say that was really good since you left, and that would be obviously the '98 undefeated team with Tommy Bowden. Other than that, they've had a lot of coaches that have come in for 3 or 4 years, and the list is long, and now you have a new one. What's going to keep him from being a short-term coach at Tulane? His name is right here on this thing. His name's Willie Fritz. What do you think about him?
Obviously his resume speaks for itself. I mean, every place he's been successful, and I would, certainly have to believe that he is doing what's needed to change what culture issues that there are, and he'll right the ship. So, that's what I'm hoping for. So.
He's got that Marine mentality. Now, you didn't play in Tulane Stadium, the original, the Sugar Bowl Stadium. They played Super Bowls there. But you went to games. You got to play in the Dome. The crowds were a little bigger in your era than they ended up being at the end of the Dome time. But now they have the new stadium on campus. It's quaint. It's nice. And I say quaint in the right way. If you're not going to fill up 50,000, 60,000, you go a little smaller, and that's what they did. I love it personally. But what are your thoughts about being back on campus in general?
That whole setting is really a fun event on game day Saturdays, being able to go to the quad.
And hanging out is a little different than the Dome, right?
Sure. I mean, the Dome parking lot is, I guess the adjective I will use is still a bit sterile. But anyway,
it's very sterile.
But anyway.
It's a Dome parking lot.
Right.
There's no grass around.
Right. So anyway, it's been a welcomed addition, and, I hope, that the new coaching staff will, begin to win more games than not, and people will continue to keep coming.
I mean, if you have wins, they will come. I know this because Curtis had one winning season in his 4 years, but other than that, there haven't been too many since that '98 championship team that was undefeated. But hopefully this will be the year. Hey, and going away, when you played growing up, do you have any particular moment in your sports history that stands out? It could be high school, it could be college. Oh, by the way, you played for the New Orleans Breakers with Marcus Dupree.
Yes.
By the way, what was that like? I got to get there first.
Well, that was a very it was kind of a crazy time, and I. If I had to do it over again, I would certainly do it, And,
one of the greatest players I've ever seen put on a helmet. I mean, he was that good.
I was awfully glad he was on my team.
Exactly. You didn't have to tackle him.
That's correct, yes.
But you got a moment that stands out for you? Anything? I mean, it doesn't have to be any long story, but any moment?
Well, I was a kid in '73 at the Tulane LSU game, and so that
14-0.
Yeah, right. So we were there the year before when Steve Foley, they were on a 1 yard line going in to possibly win. So and then that following year, the 14-0.
Tulane beats LSU. I was in the stadium, 84,000 people in an 80,000 seat stadium.
Absolutely.
And that was nuts. And I still have Mark Oliveri's chin strap from that game.
Yes.
True story.
Yes.
Gift certificate for you, my friend.
Oh, well, thank
Shays
you.
de la Shays, uptown on Maple Street. Bring your lovely wife. And I got to get you on the Tulane helmet right here, Clint Wenzel. Thank you so much for coming, my friend.
You got it, pal.
This is a guy we all looked up to and wanted to be like when we were in grade school and high school. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Hey, we're going to switch gears. We're going to go back to the entertainment side of the show. We're going to have Charlie Wooten. He's been on here before. He's a great bassist. To me, he's the most entertaining bass player I've ever seen. He's a front man, and he's played with a lot of great bands. He's coming up next. Don't forget Charles Alexander, one of LSU's all-time greatest, will be coming on later. But next, Charlie Wooten. We'll be right back on Primetime Sports.
The owners of the de la Shays Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez de la Shay, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez de la Shay, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934. is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
PlayingCollege.info has a mission to help young high school athletes get scholarships. Not just football, basketball, or baseball, Playing College aims to help with all high school athletics. Get exposure to coaches nationwide. Scholarships and financial assistance are offered in a variety of sports and non-traditional sporting activity. Track and field, soccer, golf, tennis, and so much more. Even fencing and cheerleading scholarships are available. At PlayingCollege.info, we make the contacts and let the coaches decide.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and you know it's not just a sports show. I love to have the entertainment side as well, and I like to bring musicians. We've had artists like Frenchie, restaurateurs like Dickie Brennan, and many, many musicians. Well, I haven't had many twice, and here's one my first time. I'm bringing it back.
Yeah,
His name is Charlie Wooten. He's been with, I can't remember all the bands, but let's see. Zabaduo, Charlie Wooten Project, Royal Southern Brotherhood, the New Orleans Suspects. I can even go back to a band that you might have forgotten that used to play at my crawfish bowls in Atlanta, La Chalet. He is a Lafayette native, but he lived in Atlanta like myself for a couple decades. He came back to Louisiana, been in New Orleans for 7-8 years, something like that,
Yep.
and he is making his name and making us all proud. Good to have you back one more time.
It's good to be back, man. Thanks for having me.
Everything
brother.
good?
Everything is wonderful.
Well, we're going to talk in a second about an event that I will definitely be at coming up on Saturday night at the Maple Leaf. But what have you been doing since the last time you came on? What's your projects going on? What you got working for us?
Well, I went to Australia for 5 weeks, which
Nice.
was awesome.
Nice.
With
What's
James
that guy?
Southwell.
James
Southwell.
Yeah, right.
We had recorded a CD at Dockside with him this past summer, so we went toward the CD, and that was awesome. Then went straight to Atlanta and had my King Cake party with Zada Funk up there.
That's the band that's, by the way, I didn't say Zydefunct. That's the band
That's
that
the band.
I went to see every Friday, every first Friday for like 10 years at least.
Yep.
At this place called Northside Tavern,
Yep.
and now you're getting back with them. Talk about Zydefunct and what you're doing, man.
Well, you know, when I moved here, I went on the road for like 5 years with
Okay.
Royal Southern Brotherhood and Cyril Neville. Last year I was with the New Orleans Suspects, and this year I need to get back to myself, you know. It's awesome playing behind people, but as you know, you've seen before, I like to get up front and do my thing, and Zada Funk is what I love to do. You know, it's a combination of Zydeco and New Orleans funk and Indian music and everything Louisiana. You know, I've had the privilege of playing with Cyril Neville.
That hat looks familiar.
Yeah, right? And, you know, behind Monk, I played with Chubby Carrier. Doopsie Jr. is going to be a guest with us at the end of this month at the Pensacola Crawfish Festival.
Nice.
Who might show up Saturday night, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
So, you know, I've got to play with all the greats from Louisiana. And so Zada Funk is just a gumbo of all these experiences I've had all in one.
It's my favorite one, maybe because I saw them so many times, and it allows you to be the Charlie Wooten that I've known for years because you are a front man of that band. And there's very few bass guitar players that are frontmen. They're usually the guys that sit back and just dang, 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 and do their thing. You know, John Entwistle. Nobody knows his name. They know everybody else in the Who. But the fact is that you are a true performer. So talk about that, because you are.
I don't know. I like to connect with the audience, you know.
You're good at
it. And it's you know, I love to support people, you know, when I'm in that position. But to get up front and connect with the audience and talk to them, you know, one thing I always say at the shows is music sees no color. You know,
Absolutely.
Music doesn't care how much money you got, what color you are, where you're from, what you do.
Where'd you go to high school is what we say in New Orleans.
Right? And in New Orleans, you're going to have such a diversity of people in the crowd all coming together where they normally wouldn't meet up with.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because you I mean, I'm thinking it's got to be every crowd, but Northside Tavern is a great example of that, man. You had all levels, maybe not as much color there, but the fact is you have a way of getting everybody together. And I don't want to overplay this, but it's true. Like, I would tell people behind your back, I'm like, this dude just has an innate way of just getting you gravitated to the show and into the show immediately. And it's a talent very few of us have. I certainly wish I did.
Well, I appreciate that, Scott. And you have actually, you brought up WLAE, which actually turned into Zada Funk.
Right.
When I got the name Zada Funk, I was like, that just describes what the band's all about.
Right, and it's the thing. You funk is, in fact, when I promoted you on the show, I said funky bass player because you get the funk down. I mean, and that's your style.
It's all about the funk, right?
It's all about the funk. Make sure you put the N in that word. It is all about the funk. Let's talk about this weekend. You got this big event. It's going to be at the Maple Leaf, which is obviously one of our meccas of live music. So talk about what this is. I remember this thing from years ago. It still looks good. I love it.
It's beautiful, isn't it? That's Fred the alligator, man. That's our mascot. And so Saturday night at the Maple Leaf, doors open at 10. Bringing Daniel Groover down from Atlanta. He's an amazing guitar player. Got Doug Bellotto on drums. Mike Limler on keys. Mike Limler plays with George Porter, so got some good company. A bunch of special guests are supposed to show up. Can't say who. But, you got to come out to find out.
But I heard they might be really good musicians. Wink, wink.
Maybe so.
Let's do it. I'm going to be there. I promise you this.
All right,
coming.
I'm counting on you.
I'm definitely coming.
If y'all want to meet Scott Alexander, come to the Maple Leaf Saturday night.
They coming for me. There you go. Bring your beautiful wife, Tracy. I got to give Tracy a shout out.
Oh, she's a big part of why all this goes down and how this all happens.
Your love is special. I've watched it over 10, 15 years. It's a beautiful thing. It might even be longer. I don't know. But congratulations to you both, and I'm one of your biggest fans.
Right on, Scott.
All right, Charlie Wooten, thank him so much. And next, I'm just going to let it say his name. His name is Charles Alexander. I happen to like his last name, but this is an Alexander that's here, and I'm right here because he is the greatest player, in my opinion, in LSU history. I know people say there's a lot of others, but in this young man's opinion, I love him, and he's coming up next right here. Stay tuned.
A song without soul is like a soul without a song. You might be living, but you're living all wrong. You think you've arrived, but you ain't there yet. You think you're all right, but you better not bet, better not bet. Better not bet.
It was so good to have Charlie Wooten and the rest of the guests. And, of course, you just heard Paul Sanchez again, one of the founding members of Cowboy Mouth. But here's what we came for. I got to say this. If you're an LSU fan, there's so many great running backs in history. You go back to Jimmy Taylor, Hall of Fame running back with the Packers. He played in the 50s. Of course, Billy Cannon in the late 50s is the only Heisman Trophy winner ever. And the list just goes on and on. Even more recently, Dalton Hilliard, the former Tiger and Saint. Kevin Falk. Now Leonard Fournette will be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. But for my money, the guy that I grew up watching as a kid when I first became an LSU fan was number 4, and his name was Charles Alexander, 2-time first-team All-American, 2-time Heisman Trophy finalist, and also one of the great backs and great guys. Welcome to the show. I've been trying to get you on for a while. I know you live in Houston.
I'm here.
It just worked out, so he's here.
I'm glad to be here.
It's so much fun. I've been talking to you for a bit, and everybody I mentioned that I might be having you on that knows you, like Ronnie Rantz, who was just on the show earlier, goes, Charles Alexander, one of the greatest guys, not just a great player. I mean, why are you so friendly all the time?
I just try to be. I just try to be friendly. I from Galveston, Texas, and we just always taught to be friendly.
Well, that's my first thing. You're from Galveston, obviously. I know you had other choices to go to college, but why LSU? Why'd you pick LSU in the first place?
Oh, it was a tough decision for me. I'm not going to say that it was easy.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick story. On National Signing Day, I had 2 schools in front of my house, and one was University of Houston, and the other was Jerry Stovall, parked in another car across the street, and I just decided that LSU was going to be the place for me.
So Stovall would have been McClendon's assistant at the time. And by the way, another one of those great running backs in history.
That's right. You left him out.
I know. I left several guys out. I mean, I could throw Cecil Collins in. We got a lot of them. But the fact is, your career at LSU, what game stands out to you out of all the great games? I mean, I know you had many. You were the all-time leading rusher at LSU when you left. I think, that was recently broken. But the single-season rusher, I know that for sure. Mm-hmm. But any games stand out in particular for you?
I would probably say Vanderbilt in Vandy, my junior year.
77?
77, and I guess another game that stands out, or a game that I really remember, is Ole Miss in Baton Rouge, my senior year. We didn't get on television very much in those days.
Right. Well, I don't think a lot of people did. I mean, there's only one station.
To have 2 or 3 games on television, that was a big deal. And ABC was down, and it was just a great game and a great opportunity.
And I remember Oklahoma was always on, Nebraska, and of course
Alabama.
USC
and Alabama, right. But we only probably got on maybe 2-3 times at the most.
Well, let's talk about this, because, I mean, you had a 7-year career in the NFL. Like, what's the difference playing against college players and then when you got to the NFL? Was that jump just, like, extraordinary, or was it natural for you?
It was extraordinary.
It was extraordinary.
I would always consider myself pretty fast. In high school, I ran the 100 and the 200. I won the state championship, and I felt like I had good speed. But when you get up to the NFL, that speed goes up a notch or two. And
that's all I've heard.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game.
Well, in college, obviously you're part of this, I don't know if it's an official club, but it's a club of LSU running backs. They always talk about who's the greatest, and I'm not here to rank them, but there's obviously Billy Cannon, everybody talks about because he won the only Heisman. You see in that picture, there's your guy Stovall, Kevin Falk on the left, Dalton Hilliard. You guys know each other? Y'all talk? I mean, I think LSU fans, what's y'all's relationship amongst each other?
We all talk. I talk to Coach Stovall a couple of times a year. Dalton and I probably talk every other week or so. And Kevin and I, we will talk probably 2 or 3 times a year.
Did you know of any players at LSU before? Because like you said, they weren't on TV a lot. I mean, you know what I mean? You're not from Louisiana. Was there any player that you always heard about maybe or maybe that was playing? Because, I mean, I would imagine it's like it is now. The kids have so much information.
Yeah. Probably Tommy Casanova.
Number 37.
Bert Jones.
Right.
And I kind of got to know a little bit about Terry O'Biscuit when I was being recruited, because I knew that was the guy that I was going to be competing against. That was the guy that I was going to be learning from. So I kind of got a chance to study him, and he was the best thing for me, though.
Terry O'Biscuit obviously became a coach. He was a small time a head coach in the NFL with the Redskins, I believe, and obviously a long-time assistant, but a great player. Though everybody I mentioned this to that you were on, they're like, man, Robisky, Alexander, that's one of the greatest running back tandems. What was it like, you two playing together? What were y'all's styles?
Well, Terry was more of a power runner, didn't rely on his speed too much. But, when I first got to LSU, I had in my head that I was going to come to LSU and I was going to start. And things didn't really go that way for me. And I really wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't ready to start. My first game, when they called me in the game, it was in Lincoln, Nebraska. It was against Nebraska. I didn't even make it to the line of scrimmage when they called us in the game, the second quarter. I think I had a -8 yards rushing. And for the year, my rushing average was about 2.8. So I really wasn't ready. I was glad Terry was there my first 2 years. It gave me an opportunity to learn the game, learn the offense, and watch him. And I would come in and spell Terry when he got tired. And that was the best thing to happen.
Well, I think it worked out for you in the long run. I think that
did.
1,680-yard season, whatever it was, worked out. Obviously, 2-time Heisman finalist. What was that like going up to New York for the ceremony?
I think that was the very first time they televised it was in 1977,
right.
The year that Earl Campbell won the award.
Yes.
And I had an opportunity to go up there, and first time in New York, and being from a small town, my eyes were this big.
I'm sure they were huge, right?
Yeah, it was a great experience.
There's Billy Kent right there with you there. Obviously, he is the only Heisman Trophy winner. Do y'all have any relationship? I mean, what, I want to talk about these other backs. Like, let's start with Billy Cannon, because this is the guy that obviously a movie was made about him.
Yeah.
Everybody's All-American with Dennis Quaid. What's he like? I mean, what was he like as a runner too?
Billy, from what I could see from the film, he was a big guy, just like I was, and he had a lot of speed, and real good guy. I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay.
I didn't know that much about LSU football. I knew some things, but I didn't study it.
Sure.
And when I was a freshman, I went to the equipment cage and they used to ask, well, what number do you want to wear? So I said, well, I wore number 20 in high school. I want number 20. And everybody just died laughing. They thought it was funny. And
they said, I think that one's taken for good.
Say,
number 20 is retired.
Exactly. So you can't wear that jersey. I said, well, why not? Said, that's retired. It's Billy Cannon's jersey.
Well, I got a quick one for you. I wore number 4 for 2 players. I love basketball. That was my main sport for Kyle Macy. But your name was Alexander, and it's the first time I really loved LSU football. So I said, I got to wear number 4. I wore it in both sports, baseball and basketball.
Yeah. And by the way, you got a good last name, too.
I know. I was going to say that as well. Besides the athletic ability, the last name does work. Hey, also, Jim Taylor was another guy before Billy Cannon. I mean, listen, Jim Taylor, his pedigree, Hall of Famer in the NFL, obviously college Hall of Famer. He also won a couple Super Bowls there, and then he was on the Saints' first team. But the lineage, I'm not going to say started with him, so I know there were great players before him, but that's certainly another guy. What do you know about him?
Yeah. I remember watching Jimmy Taylor when he played with the Packers. Didn't know him when he played at LSU. Tough guy. I used to run that 18-19 Bob with the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
I actually was coached for 4 years under one of his teammates, Forrest Gregg.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And,
okay.
Yeah,
wait, you were coached by Forrest Gregg?
Yes, in Cincinnati.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Because I was thinking, I know he went from Cincinnati, ended up being at SMU for a bit, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that was one of the great offensive linemen.
I could remember him running that play, 19 and 18 Bob. And
did he ever talk about Taylor and Hornig and those guys? I mean, was he one of the guys?
No, he was too busy yelling at us.
Yeah, he's yelling at y'all. Right. Well, that's kind of the era. We mentioned Stovall and them, but the era after you, because you had Gary James and Dalton Hilliard. They came in kind of as a thunder and lightning gear. I think that might have been 82 they came around. Maybe it was 81. But long story short, what do you remember about Dalton? Actually, you were probably too busy playing the NFL to worry about guys like that. But
yeah, but I got an opportunity to watch LSU a little bit. I always try to, if they were on television in Cincinnati, I tried to watch it. And I remember that the Dalton Hilliard and Gary James gang and
they were good,
one
man.
thing I can
they
remember,
were good.
Yeah, Dalton was one of the quickest backs that I can remember.
He had the strongest legs I've ever seen. I used to
yeah.
play hoops against him in intramurals. And I'm like, this dude is packed.
Yeah. He was a smaller version of Earl Campbell.
Yeah, I know. I just took it out.
Smaller version. Used to almost get off the ground like Earl. Real slow, like he was hurt or.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he would take his time. Right. Yeah. Well, he like you, everybody that is around Dalton, one of the great gentlemen around. I mean, he's just a good guy. Obviously, a Saints hero as well. All-Pro 1 year with the Saints, or a Pro Bowl at least. But the next decade produced a guy. I think it was the leaner years of LSU football, but Kevin Falk was the #1 recruit in the entire country, and he ended up passing down Notre Dame, Florida, who was great with Spurrier, Michigan, to come to LSU. Stayed 4 years. What are your thoughts about him? Because I know you two know each other as well.
Kevin's a good guy. I think Kevin played quarterback at Carencro.
He did, at Carencro, correct.
And was converted to a running back when he got to LSU. And Dalton and I used to always tease each other about, well, Kevin's going to get your record this week. And I said, yeah, if he gets one of mine, he's going to get two of yours.
Right.
But a real versatile back. Great wide receiver. Not wide receiver. Great receiver.
Yeah, out of the
catch
backfield.
The football out of the backfield.
Certainly made a living with the Patriots,
could return
right?
punts, kickoffs, and he made a living with New England for, I don't know, what,
14 years, Super Bowls.
Yeah,
I mean,
Super Bowls, right.
Pretty successful run for your boy Kevin Falk.
Not bad for a guy from Caron Crow, Louisiana.
And he's back home coaching. I mean, you got to love that. Another great guy. And let me tell you, that lineage is strong, but now they have a guy that they say could be, one of the best of all time. I mean, who knows what he's going to be, but Leonard Fournette, his athletic ability just screams off the screen at you if you watch him on TV. What are your thoughts about him? You've been in the NFL. You know what it takes. What's this guy got? Can he be great in the NFL, like Adrian Peterson style great, or is he just going to be a regular NFL back?
Nothing regular about him.
Nothing regular
like
about him.
Like the young kids say that he's a beast. Yeah, he can do it all. I get excited when I used to watch him play, and it's unfortunate he got injured his last year at LSU. But I'm excited about watching him in the NFL, and if I was a GM, I'd take him.
Well, he had that run of 200-yard games. We saw what the guy can do, and the competition was good in some of those games. The family, though, the LSU family, I know you're strong in it. I know we talked about the backs, but what's it like with the ex-players and the pride that they have being Tigers?
Well, we all like to come around. A lot of us tailgate together. We come to several games during the year, and I will say this about Coach O. He's opened the doors wide open.
Isn't that great?
He's welcomed us to have access to his program, to have access to his locker room, and I can't wait until.
I'm excited for the Coach O era.
Oh, I am too.
I'm a Tulane fan and an LSU fan. I'm one of the rare ones. I grew up with Tulane, but I went to LSU, love it, and I support the school. Hey, I got to talk about what you do now. Come on, man. I mean, that's your business. And that's the reason I said it, because that's the name of your company.
Right.
It started, I think, with Cajun Seasoning, but you guys got a lot going on. Tell people about it. What's up?
Yeah, I have. I started out with one all-purpose 8-ounce can of all-purpose seasoning.
Right.
And that kind of grew into 5 different products now. I have a crab ball. I have 2 hot sauces.
Nice. Really?
Yeah, a fish fry. And the only place I have it here in New Orleans is Central Market in the quarter.
What about the rest of the state? I'm Baton Rouge, Lafayette. Where are you?
I'm working hard trying to get in the state.
Maybe you need somebody that can get in there and sell it for you.
Yeah, it's in one Albertsons in Baton Rouge on College Drive, and I think starting June 1st it will be in every Albertsons in the state of Louisiana.
Nice.
So I'm excited about that.
That's huge, man.
Yes.
Congratulations. Is it? I know you live in Houston. Is it around Houston right now too?
Yes, in over 200 stores in Houston.
Good for you.
I'm sorry, in the state of
Texas.
Texas,
right?
Yes, Tom Thumbs, Randall's, and Safeways. So you can also order it on the internet.
All right, I want you to get LSU fans excited because Fournette's gone, but there's a guy that's still there, and his name is Darius Geis. So what do you think about his future? Because he came on the scene and got 1,600-plus yards, and he didn't even hardly get carries in 4 games. How high is this guy's ceiling?
There is no ceiling to this kid. I really like I call him Mr. Geis.
Mr. Geis.
Yeah.
They'll be calling him Mr. this season.
Yeah, he's a fantastic runner. And people say, well, describe him. I say, well, the only way I can describe him is he runs angry. And
that's
he's
about as good
exciting
a
to
compliment
watch.
as you can give a
running
back.
Yeah. He's exciting to watch, and he's going to make the first man miss.
Charles, this has been more than a pleasure. I mean, I got to tell you, when one of your heroes comes on growing up, it was like Pistol Pete for me, Archie Manning, a little Steve Foley of Tulane, and Charles Alexander. You remember the guys that you grew up in the 70s. So thank you so much. I got a nice gift certificate for you. Enjoy that today. I know you're going to the Pontiff Classic tonight. LSU's playing UL, big game that's over there at the Zephyrs/Baby Cakes Stadium. But here, I can't wait to get your thing on here with all the LSU greats. Give me one of these big Charles Alexanders. And
I'll do it.
If you want to sign it, Scott Alexander, you can do that too. No, just joking. Just joking. I want to thank everybody. This has been so much fun. I had a great show. Clint Wenzel was here, a Tulane legend back from the early 80s. And, of course, Ronnie Rantz, the president and CEO of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, former LSU Tiger pitcher, Charlie Wooten, Paul Sanchez. I want to thank them all. And then the cast and crew here. Got to thank them as well from WLAE and CST, particularly my man Will Hill, Jay Smooth, Josh Smith is back there, Kenny Juno, Redhead Tsunami, and everybody else. Have a great week. We're coming back next week, and happy Easter. Enjoy your weekend.